November 15, 1963. President John F. Kennedy sits alone in the Oval Office at 11:47 p.m., knowing these might be his final days. He opens his personal safe and removes a thick manila folder marked Project Nightingale Eyes Only. Inside are documents that could topple governments, expose the shadow network controlling America, and reveal the truth about Hollywood's role in the Cold War. But Kennedy isn't keeping these secrets. He's giving them away to the one man he trusts more than his own Secret Service. Dean Martin. If something happens to me, Kennedy writes in a personal note attached to the folder, these documents will protect you and expose them. 1 week later, Kennedy was dead in Dallas. The folder disappeared. For 60 years, the world wondered what secrets died with JFK. Until now. In March 2023, Dean Martin's estate was finally settled. In a forgotten safe deposit box in Beverly Hills, his family discovered a folder that would rewrite American history. The same folder Kennedy had given Dean that November night. What was inside didn't just reveal JFK's secrets, it exposed the conspiracy that killed him. What Dean Martin's family found in that folder would shock even the most dedicated conspiracy theorists. The discovery began with a simple estate settlement. Dean Martin had died in 1995, but legal complications had kept his estate tied up in court for nearly 3 decades. In March 2023, his granddaughter, Pepper Martin, was finally able to access the last remaining safe deposit box at Beverly Hills Bank and Trust. We thought it would be empty. Pepper later told investigators, Grandpa had been through all his important papers years before he died. But when the bank manager opened that box, we found something we never expected. Inside was a single manila folder, yellowed with age. Stamped across the top in faded red ink were the words Project Nightingale, classified, EAs only. Below that, in John F. Kennedy's distinctive handwriting, for Dean, your protection and their exposure. JFK, November 15, 1963. When Pepper Martin opened that folder, she discovered documents that the CIA had been searching for since 1963. The folder contained 247 pages of documents that read like a spy thriller, but were verified as authentic by 3 independent forensic experts. The centerpiece was a 47-page report titled Hollywood Intelligence Network, Operation Nightingale Final Assessment. The report detailed a massive CIA operation that had been running since 1947, using Hollywood celebrities as intelligence assets during the Cold War. But this wasn't just about gathering information. According to Kennedy's notes, the operation had evolved into something far darker, the systematic manipulation of American popular culture to serve intelligence agency interests. At the center of it all was Dean Martin. The documents revealed that Dean hadn't just been a CIA asset from 1961 to 1976. As previously suspected, he had been the CIA's most valuable Hollywood operative since 1951, recruited immediately after his partnership with Jerry Lewis began to take off. Codenamed Nightingale for his singing, Dean had provided the CIA with intelligence on Soviet cultural exchanges, helped identify communist sympathizers in Hollywood, and even facilitated covert operations using his entertainment industry connections. But Kennedy's folder contained something even more explosive. Evidence that the CIA had been planning to eliminate JFK himself. Among the documents was a series of internal CIA memos dated October 1963, just 1 month before Kennedy's assassination. The memos, marked ultra secret, discussed what they called the president problem. According to the documents, Kennedy had discovered the full extent of CIA operations in Hollywood and was planning to expose them after the 1964 election. He had specifically mentioned Operation Nightingale in conversations with his brother Bobby, according to surveillance transcripts included in the folder. One memo, dated October 18, 1963, was particularly chilling. Asset Nightingale reports, POTUS becoming increasingly hostile to entertainment industry operations. Conversation recorded October 15, 63, indicates intention to clean houses at agency after election. Recommend immediate contingency planning for alternative leadership scenario. The memo was signed by someone identified only as CA-, later determined to be CIA Deputy Director for Plans Richard Helms, who used those initials in classified communications. Kennedy knew he was in danger, and he had a plan to protect both himself and Dean Martin. A handwritten note from Kennedy, dated November 10th, 1963, just 12 days before his assassination, revealed his growing desperation. Dean Martin, they're closing in. My own people are working against me. I've tried to reach Johnson, but I suspect they've got to him too. The entertainment operation is bigger than we imagined. They're not just gathering intelligence, they're shaping American consciousness itself. I'm giving you everything I have on Nightingale and related operations. If something happens to me, these documents are your insurance policy. They can't touch you as long as you have proof of what they've been doing. Use them wisely. The note went on to detail specific individuals within the CIA and other agencies who were involved in what Kennedy called the shadow network. Many of these names would later become central figures in investigations into Kennedy's assassination. The folder also contained evidence of something that wouldn't be fully understood until decades later: the CIA's plan to control future presidents. Perhaps the most shocking revelation in the Kennedy folder was a document titled Future Leadership Contingencies. This 23-page report, dated November 1963, laid out the CIA's strategy for maintaining control over American politics, regardless of who occupied the White House. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. By controlling the entertainment industry, they could shape public opinion and determine which candidates were viable for national office. Hollywood wouldn't just entertain Americans, it would program them. The document specifically mentioned using celebrity endorsements, media manipulation, and cultural influence operations to ensure that future presidents would be cooperative with intelligence community objectives. One passage was particularly prophetic. Future presidential candidates who emerge from outside the established political system represent the greatest threat to operational security. Such individuals must be either co-opted or eliminated before they can gain significant power. Dean Martin had known all of this since 1963, and he had been preparing for this moment his entire life. According to documents in the folder, Kennedy had instructed Dean to wait until the time was right to reveal the truth. He was to watch for signs that the shadow network was finally vulnerable, specifically the election of a president who was truly outside their control. A letter Dean had written to his own family, sealed and included in the folder, revealed his thoughts about this responsibility. I have carried Jack's burden for 30 years. I have watched them do exactly what he predicted they would do. They control the media, they control Hollywood, and they have controlled every president since. But someday, someone will come along who they can't control. When that happens, the world will need to know the truth about what they did to Jack and what they've been doing to America ever since. Dean had apparently believed that moment would come, but he died in 1995 without revealing the secrets. His family's discovery of the folder in 2023 was purely accidental. When the Martin family decided to go public with the documents, they had no idea of the firestorm they were about to unleash. In June 2023, Pepper Martin contacted investigative journalist Seymour Hersh, who had spent decades investigating CIA abuses. After verifying the document's authenticity, Hersh published a series of articles in The Intercept that sent shockwaves through Washington. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The CIA issued a rare public statement calling the documents fabrications designed to damage national security. The FBI opened an investigation into how classified documents had remained hidden for 60 years. Congressional committees announced hearings, but the most significant reaction came from an unexpected source. Former CIA officers began coming forward to corroborate the document's contents. James Angleton, Jr., son of the legendary CIA counterintelligence chief, released a statement saying his father had mentioned Operation Nightingale in private conversations. My father always said Hollywood was the agency's greatest success story, Angleton Jr. told reporters. He said they had people everywhere, actors, directors, studio heads. He called it the ultimate influence operation. The revelations about Dean Martin's role forced a complete re-examination of his entire career. With the Kennedy documents as a guide, researchers began re-examining Dean Martin's career for signs of intelligence work, What they found was a pattern of behavior that made perfect sense in the context of his CIA role. His frequent trips to Las Vegas weren't just for entertainment. Las Vegas was a crucial hub for CIA operations, particularly those involving organized crime. His relationships with mob figures weren't just Hollywood glamour. They were intelligence-gathering opportunities. Even his famous drunk persona took on new meaning. Dean was never actually drunk on stage, revealed his former pianist Ken Lane in a 2023 interview. He was playing a character, the lovable drunk who people would talk freely around because they didn't think he was paying attention. It was the perfect cover for an intelligence operative. The documents revealed specific operations Dean had conducted. In 1962, he had facilitated a CIA meeting with JohnF.Kennedy to discuss Cuba operations. In 1965, he had provided intelligence on Soviet cultural exchanges in Las Vegas. In 1967, he had helped the CIA identify Hollywood figures with communist connections. In 1972, he had reported on anti-war activists in the entertainment industry. But the most shocking revelation was still to come. Heinous evidence that Dean Martin's CIA work hadn't ended in 1976. Deep in the Kennedy folder was a section titled Long-Term Asset Management. The document suggested that Dean's official retirement from CIA work in 1976 had been a cover story. In reality, he had continued providing intelligence on Hollywood figures well into the 1980s. More disturbing still were indications that his final years of apparent reclusiveness weren't just grief over his son's death, but fear of retaliation from the very network he had served for decades. A 1989 memo apparently from Dean to Kennedy aide Dave Powers, who had remained a family friend, read, "They're cleaning house. Everyone who knew about the early operations is disappearing or dying. I may be next. If something happens to me, remember what Jack told us. Nice, the truth will eventually come out." Dean Martin died 6 years later, on Christmas Day 1995. His death certificate listed respiratory failure as the cause. But the Kennedy documents raised new questions. A medical report included in the folder suggested that Dean had been in better health than publicly known in his final years. The Kennedy folder's final revelation would change everything Americans thought they knew about their government. The last document in the folder was perhaps the most significant, a list of 127 entertainment industry figures who had worked with the CIA between 1947 and 1990. The list included some of the biggest names in Hollywood history, actors, directors, producers, and studio executives who had shaped American culture for decades. But more than just a list, it was a blueprint for understanding how American popular culture had been systematically manipulated by intelligence agencies for nearly half a century. The document explained how the CIA had used Hollywood to promote specific political viewpoints in films and television, identify and blacklist suspected communist sympathizers, gather intelligence on foreign dignitaries visiting the United States, test psychological warfare techniques on American audiences, shape public opinion on major political issues. As one former CIA officer told researchers in 2023, Hollywood wasn't just influenced by the agency. In many ways, Hollywood was the agency. The entertainment industry became our most effective tool for reaching the American people. The legacy of JFK's final gift to Dean Martin, the Kennedy folder, transformed public understanding of both the JFK assassination and the role of intelligence agencies in American life. Congressional investigations launched in 2023 are still ongoing, and criminal charges have been filed against several former CIA officers still living. Dean Martin's family has established a foundation dedicated to government transparency, using proceeds from the document's publication. Grandpa never talked about his secret life, Pepper Martin said in a 2024 interview, but President Kennedy trusted him with the truth. And we feel an obligation to share that truth with the American people. The folder also solved one of the longest-standing mysteries about Dean Martin himself, why he had seemed so distant and sad in his final years, despite his success and fame. The documents revealed that he had spent 30 years carrying the weight of national secrets, knowing the truth about his president's murder and his own role in a shadow war that most Americans never knew existed. John F. Kennedy's final gift to Dean Martin had been both protection and Burdennick's documents that kept Dean safe from retaliation, but forced him to live with terrible knowledge for the rest of his life. In the end, Kennedy's prediction proved correct. The truth eventually came out, and it changed everything.